Am I the a-hole for expecting my boyfriend to pay rent if he moves in with me? This is a doozy. I've been dating Josh for a year. I should say now that I, 24 female, don't ever want to be legally married, and Josh, 30 male, is divorced and doesn't want to remarry. We also live in a place where there is no common law marriage. Still, we want to take things a bit further, and we're talking about Josh and his 2 daughters moving in with me. I own a 3-bed, 2-bath house in a nice area. Josh rents a 2-bed, 1-bath apartment, and his lease is coming up. My mortgage is $1,000 a month, and Josh's rent is $1,400 a month. It was important to me that we would have everything figured out before making the change, so that there would be no surprises or disagreements about who pays what. I figured it would be unreasonable for Josh to expect to just live with me for free, especially since I'd be giving up one of my rooms so his daughters could have a room. So, I suggested that Josh pays $700 a month to me in rent, half of what he is currently paying. I would cover the cost of any home repairs, internet, garbage, etc. Then, we would split utilities. Even though there's 3 of them and 1 of me, I don't mind splitting since that would be about what I'm currently paying, I predict. And since I meal prep once a week, I would just get my own groceries and he could get theirs. When I laid everything out, Josh was very unhappy and said since it's my house, he shouldn't have to pay rent and that we should split groceries. I told him he was welcome to buy his own house and I would move in with him and happily pay rent while renting out my own house. He was mad at me because he said he's not in a position where he can buy a house. We can't come to an agreement, so I suggested he just find another apartment as the owners aren't letting him renew, and we could revisit the topic in a year. He's not happy with that either, because rent prices have skyrocketed here, and 2 bedrooms now go for around $1,800 a month, and he thinks he won't be able to find a place he can afford. I'm a bit frustrated because I feel like $700 a month is a really good deal compared to the likely $1,800 he will have to pay. Since we aren't going to get married or anything, I don't understand why he thinks I would be okay with him living for free with his 2 kids. I'm happy to have romance and companionship, but shared assets and finances are not something I want in life. I don't want to support a man. Am I the a-hole for expecting my boyfriend to pay rent? Now for the top comments before reading the mini update. Not the a-hole. Your solution is perfectly reasonable. If he doesn't like your rental price, he is free to find his own home. Unless he's just been dating you so he could eventually move in and his daughters in and pay no rent. See, that's something I'm really worried about. I work with a lot of successful women, and I've seen a lot of them broke dirtbag guys who just mooch off them. I like Josh, and we have a good time when we're together, and the intimacy is great. But I don't think that is good enough for $700 a month if you know what I mean. Moving in with you would save him a significant amount of money. He should be grateful for that offer. Him being upset and wanting to pay nothing is a huge red flag. Trust your gut, OP. It doesn't sound like it's going to get better with this guy. Not the a-hole. You're about to be taken for a ride if you give in and let him move in without paying rent. My advice, from all my years, as someone who also doesn't want to get remarried, maintain separate homes. You lose out if you let him move in. That's what I'm thinking. I'm already a bit apprehensive because his kids are a bit wild. But he isn't happy with living separately because he's going to have to pay a really high rent. But I think I'll probably just tell him to either agree to my terms or get over it. I don't know. Him wanting to save money is not a good enough reason to live together. Plus, the fact that you and him are already having issues that you're struggling to come to an agreement is probably a sign that you guys aren't compatible to live together. Not the a-hole, and listen to your gut. Well, this is the only real disagreement we've had in the last year. I'm trying to be optimistic and think that maybe he just needed an outside perspective. Now for the mini update. So I showed Josh this post and he thinks you all are wrong. So here's some input from him. Leslie makes $120K a year and I make $30K. I'm living paycheck to paycheck supporting 2 kids with no help from my ex-wife. It's gotten so expensive here that at this rate, I'm not even going to be able to feed my kids soon without going to the food bank. No matter what, they're going to get fed. But it's not fair that she owns a house and can go on vacations or spend $400 a month getting her hair done, when I can't even buy my kids name brand cereal. She shouldn't charge me to live with her because she should understand that I want to be able to spend whatever I can, giving my kids the childhood that they deserve. Not for me, but for them. So thanks Reddit. Oh, you won, and I'm glad I posted here. After a very loud and angry argument with Josh, I broke up with him. Despite pretty much everyone telling him he was wrong, Josh insisted that I should basically support the three of them because it's what would be best for his kids. He doesn't seem to understand that they aren't my kids, and no one is going to want to bankroll the three of them. At least no one with a brain. The point is, I'm young, good-looking, and I own a house. I can do better than a broke single dad who has no education and a crappy job, who thinks it's okay to mooch off me and scream in my face when I tell him no. Hope your next girlfriend is stupid enough to put up with you, Josh. No wonder your ex-wife left. Next story. Am I the a-hole for counting down the days until my daughter turns 18 so I can stop being legally responsible for her? I married my wife about 2 years ago and she has a daughter from a previous relationship. Early on during our dating period, she made it clear that her daughter has a father and she's not looking for another father for her. The ground rules were set by her, which is that I will be an adult figure but not a parental one. I will have no say in how she is to be brought up, and I can't punish her in any way. Considering she was 14 when her mom and I met and 15 when we married, I agreed to her rules. My thinking is that she's already too old for me to make any difference in her life anyway, so I make it an issue. Fast forward a couple of years and my life has been a nightmare. The girl constantly gets into trouble and has been kicked out of several schools. She lived with her father at a time. She had to move in with us so she could attend a new high school in order to graduate. She's been suspended several times at this high school, but it looks like she'll graduate on time. While living with us, she's gotten into 2 car accidents. One was when she was drunk, and we had to remortgage our house to pay her attorney fees and legal bills. The judge dressed us down in court for not being better parents. I'm not a legal expert at all, but from movies and shows, I know that judges can jail you for arguing, so I bit my tongue and took it. It was humiliating. The girl is a couple of months away from being an adult, and this weekend, I was out with the guys and she came up in conversation. I complained about how much money I've spent bailing her out of trouble, and that I can't wait until she turns 18 so she can face her own consequences. Word got back to my wife and she blew her top. I still don't think I said anything wrong, but I'm staying at a motel tonight. I want to be clear, we're not kicking her out, and considering she doesn't work, she'll be living with us for a while. I'm just waiting for the day she's an adult so I won't be yelled at by any more judges. If you're not a parental figure, why are you paying for these things at all? You're a saint for putting up with this. Not a-hole. Mom wants to have her cake and eat it too. Actually, Mom wants to be a terrible mother and wanted to ruin any possible relationship her daughter and her husband could have had. She is the problem, not the daughter. Dude, why are you so worried about being jailed? Trust me, you are already in a prison of your own making, not the a-hole. I'm not sure that's fair. Unless there were a ton of warning signs that he's not mentioning, how was he supposed to know when the girl was 14 that she would end up being so terribly behaved? Because you should date someone for more than a year before getting married, especially when a kid is involved. Not a-hole, but you should probably be rethinking your whole marriage, because this is not going to stop when she turns 18. Yeah, but at 18, she's a legal adult and he can wash his hands off her. His daughter will have to clean up her own messes. He's not legally bound to pay for anything related to the law or damages she may do. No, but his wife is still there and clearly doesn't like that stance. It's not going to be as clear-cut as 18 and cutting the cord. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my in-laws to come on vacation with me? I have been with my partner for 4 years. He has 2 kids with his ex-wife, while I have none and don't plan to. Our household income is okay, and he earns the majority of it. He earns 65% of the total income. The last 4 years, he has insisted that we pay 50-15 to household bills, despite the fact he earns far more than what I earn, and his kids stay with us regularly. I pay half the rent, bills and grocery, which is expensive for someone on my salary. Then he wants to buy a house near his ex-wife, so he can be closer to his kids. So he says it's important that I pick up 50% of the costs now, so that allows him to save more of his money for our future. The money he isn't paying into bills, but goes straight into his own savings account, not a joint one. He does not really acknowledge he has underpaid bills the last 4 years. I've calculated he's underpaid between 16,000 to 19,000 pounds. When he first moved in, without his kids, I picked up all the bills. I paid out over 8,000 pounds in rent and bills, while I paid around 1,100 pounds towards food. Not long ago, he asked if I wanted to go away for the following weekend. I said sure, and we talked about where we could go. He then went to visit his parents, and later that evening he messaged me an Airbnb link for a lodge by the beach to visit that weekend. He asked if his family could come, and he said he'd pay more than 50% if I agreed to them coming. I don't have any family, plus his mom and dad have beat cancer recently, so I said yes to his folks and grown-up brother coming, and booked and paid for the Airbnb. A few days ago, he wanted to settle the vacation bill and has offered to pay 60% of the total. I've kicked off stating the obvious. There were 7 people in that lodge, and 6 of them were his family, so my portion of that bill should be 15%. Am I wrong? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole, but why are you with this guy? It sounds like you were funding so much of his life and not getting anything out of this relationship other than being so financially weakened. It would be hard for you to leave. Because being alone is lonely. That's what most of these posts boil down to. Am I the a-hole for finally not putting up with this crappy person? OP, ask yourself this question. If the situation were reversed and you made more money than your partner, would you make the same demands that you are letting him make from you? So why are you allowing him to make you struggle and sacrifice when you would never expect the same if the situation were reversed? To answer the post, not the a-hole, and he is 100% the a-hole, because his family may not know what you make, but he does. And he clearly doesn't respect you nor your financial situation in the slightest. Don't accept treatment that you would never expect of others. You deserve an equal partnership with deep respect. You realize he's not going to put your name on that house, right? If that house was really for your future, he would set up a savings account with both of your names on it. He's just using you to pay enough bills that he can save enough for a house, and more than likely, dump you once he's purchased the house. Put your foot down. Tell him the money distribution isn't fair, and you will only pay 35% of the bills, but offer to put that 50% you are saving toward a house and a mutual savings account. And you want your name on the deed as 35% owner. Insist on getting a lawyer and having an agreement drafted. If he refuses, then you have your answer. He's just using you. Also, don't let him gaslight you or persuade you into seeing his side of things. Tell him this isn't anything personal, even if it is. It's just protecting yourself and your future. Again, if he declines or argues, dump him and move on. Last story. Am I the a-hole for letting my daughters share a room even though they don't need to anymore, and despite my ex asking me not to? My ex and I have 2 daughters who are 9 and 10. They're 20 months apart to be specific. They are as close as twins, and they look alike enough that they're mistaken for such sometimes. They get their weekends with me, which until a couple months ago, they had to share a room, because my apartment only had 2 bedrooms. Luckily, my financial situation has improved, and I now have a small house with 3 bedrooms for them. The thing is, they didn't want to have their own rooms. They liked sharing because it's like sleepover every night, and asked me if they could keep sharing. I figured I'd be an idiot if I didn't support my children getting along, so I agreed. The extra bedroom is just a guest room for now, but if/when they change their mind, they can take it. Their mother is not happy about this. They never had to share a room over there, and apparently, they've been asking to. She's getting tired of that, and she asked me to split them up so they'd stop bothering her. I had a talk with them about not asking her anymore, and how different houses have different rules, but I'm letting them keep sharing a room. Their mother thinks I'm encouraging codependency and that this isn't healthy, but I've seen no sign of that. They're in different grades and classes, have different friends, and do different activities and cope fine. They're perfectly healthy, happy kids, and I see no harm in what I'm doing. But she says I'm going to cause tension between her and them by letting them do something they can't over there. Not the a-hole. Your ex seems pretty controlling and doesn't want her daughters to be happier in your place. I don't see anything wrong with them sharing a room if they want to. They're little kids for Pete's sake. That's it exactly. She doesn't want them getting excited about going to their father's. She sees what is coming and is afraid she will lose their love. And all she would have to do is let them share a room at her place, and the girls could be happy all the time. She is the one causing the rift. OP, you are not the a-hole. Your daughters are happy with the arrangement. It's not causing you any stress, and the only person with beef is someone who has no say over the rules in your house. There'll come a time when the girls may want their own rooms, but until then, there's nothing wrong with keeping things as they are. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. My 11 and 7-year-old girls shared a room until a year ago. I try not to let them sleep in each other's rooms on school nights, but most weekends, they spend at least one night in one another's rooms or beds. The amount they and yours are sharing is not harming them at all. Let them bond. Once they ask for the space and room, you have it. Good luck. Not the a-hole. When they're with you, it's entirely your decision. And sounds to me like you're making the right one. It's too bad mom isn't happy, but her goal is literally to make her kids less happy. So unless she's actually an expert on codependency, then her opinion here isn't worth more than what you think and what your kids want. Am I the a-hole for laughing at my brother-in-law's income? I, 35 female, met my husband Ray, 35 male, about 12 years ago. He was a junior engineer at the time, but he was perceptive, considerate, funny, and just overall my ideal guy. The only thing I didn't like was the way he and his brother Pete, now 38 male, interacted. Pete loves to talk about how successful he is and his friends were, and undermines Ray's accomplishments as, that's good for your age. Ray overlooks it because he wants to be supportive of his brother. At the time, I wanted to say something about Pete's arrogance, since not only was I not impressed by his income, it's not a secret that Pete is noticeably uglier, inside and out, than his younger brother. I didn't because Ray preferred I let it be. Pete continues to do this for the next 12 years. I tried hinting that we're all doing well and this is an awkward topic, but Pete brushed it off with patronizing, saying like, you'll get there. Fast forward to now, we're all married with children. 2 weeks ago, Pete with his wife and son dropped by for a visit since Pete was on a business trip. Within a couple hours, Pete starts bragging about his recent raise. He's finally broken X $100,000 per year, and his wife will be going for a promotion that will land her around Y $100,000 per year. Ray was just as supportive as he usually is. Then Pete goes, you'll get there eventually. Our son, who is playing nearby with Pete's son, stopped and asked if that's a lot. Pete's son said, yeah, duh. And I said, no. Pete then laughed and told me to not set too high of an expectation for my children. So, and this is where I might be the a-hole, I laughed and said, if you must know, X $100,000 is what we paid in taxes last year. Pete and his wife went silent, and Ray tried to change the subject. Then Pete suggested that we should get a new accountant because that's way too much for Texas. I lost my patience and asked him how much he thought our job titles should pay in Texas, or if he was still under the impression that his little brother is an entry-level engineer. Admittedly, it was not my best moment, but I really disliked him for trying to put down my husband in front of my son. After they left, I got a text from Pete about how I owe him an apology for embarrassing him in front of his son. I told him I will not, but I'm happy to never speak of income again if he will stop bringing it up in front of my son. Ray agrees with me, but asks a favor to let Pete talk in the future as long as it's not in front of the kids. He says his brother has some self-esteem issues, and if it makes Pete feel better to pretend he's more successful than Ray, Ray's okay with it. I really don't see the need to keep babysitting an almost 40-year-old man's ego, and frankly, I don't want a man anywhere near my son. But as I don't have a sibling with a self-esteem issue, I don't know if I'm overreacting. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You are super patient. 12 years. I wouldn't have lasted one. To be honest, it was tempting to go off on him earlier, especially after his toast at our wedding that made my dad almost throw him out. But the only reason I didn't was because my husband made it funny later and we ended up laughing it off. Wait, Pete did this patronizing stunt at your wedding? You might need to tell your husband point blank that his relationship with his brother is incredibly unhealthy, and it's toxic that they are teaching their sons to continue this dynamic as cousins. It started as an okay toast but got condescending and ended with a not bad for a bachelor's degree, right? Brother-in-law has a PhD. My dad got angry because 1, rude, and 2, he doesn't like PhDs. But people chilled after my husband made some jokes about his brother being convoluted/hard to understand, and ended with, "Not bad for a PhD, right?" That said, my son will be spending less time with brother-in-law's son until habits improves. It sounds like your husband may have normalized his role of being his brother's punching bag, and then smoothing it over in front of company so no one holds brother-in-law accountable. Obviously, I don't know these people, and so you'd be able to tell if this is accurate or off base. Your husband might need to be reminded that everyone gets insecure and jealous, but most people learn healthy ways of processing, not taking cheap shots during a wedding speech or raising your son to look down on his poor, as brother-in-law assumed you were, cousins. Not the a-hole at all. It sounds like brother-in-law is getting worse over time, and that's probably because no one shut down his behavior before. Better late than never. You shut that nonsense down. Don't apologize. And if he doesn't see the problems with his behavior, tell him not to worry. He'll get there eventually. I'm definitely borrowing your line if this doesn't come down. Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving for uni without telling my parents? Anyway, I'm female 19 and literally just moved out of my family home. By just, I mean today, in the morning. I thought my decision was right, but one of my new flatmates thinks I'm in the wrong, so I need some impartial opinion. I'm the oldest of 6 siblings. I have 5 younger brothers, and I lived with them and my parents. My parents had me very young. They were both 16 at a time. And from the very young age, I was expected to babysit them, take care of them, and help with a lot of chores. My brothers never had to do any chores whatsoever. When I went to secondary school, I started questioning things. And when I started 6th form, my parents suggested I quit because I won't be going to university anyway since I have to help with my brothers, as my mother won't be able to do so alone. I did my A-levels anyway. I tried talking to my parents about university plans, but they kept telling me to drop it because I'm staying. I, however, was adamant that I want to go. I was to apply for financing as an independent student, without them taking my parents' income into consideration. It was very difficult, but I managed it, and I had all correspondence sent to my friend's address. Anyway, with all finance sorted, academic year is about to start, and my uni had moving-in date today until the end of the week. In the morning, when my parents went out and my siblings went to school, I packed everything I needed, like clothes and basic necessities, left a letter I prepared, and left without them knowing, getting a train to my university town. I had to do it that way because they wouldn't let me go. I've had countless of phone calls from them since the morning. I've picked up once, and they shouted at me, demanding I come back or tell them where exactly I am. I didn't give them my address. I didn't pick up other phone calls, and I thought I was right about this. But when I told my flatmates, one of them called me an a-hole and that my parents are probably worried sick, and I should give them my address at the very least. Now I don't know. Am I the a-hole for leaving so suddenly? You're never the a-hole for escaping abuse. Your flatmate is young and maybe hasn't experienced the type of background you just came from. I wouldn't take their comments to heart. If you had told them in advance, they absolutely would have stopped you and messed up your education. If you give them your address, you can bet everything you have that they'll show up at your door to drag you back. I hope you thrive and have a wonderful time at uni. I'm not sure if anyone has told you this yet, but I'm proud of you. What you did wasn't easy and took a lot of strength and courage. You're absolutely not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, but I would stop telling your flatmates anything if that's how they respond. You can let them know that any way a person escapes a harmful situation is okay, and that your parents know you left and that you're safe, and that's all that matters. With that said, if possible, I'd get another phone, change your number, and get rid of your old phone. They can track it, especially if it's on their phone plan, in some situations, and I doubt they will easily let go of their free babysitter and free labor. They will harass you forever. Cut them off completely. And be careful who you tell about your home situation moving forward. Information is power. Sometimes when we're in unhealthy environments, we tend to talk to anyone who seems to have a sympathetic ear, but you need to make sure these people are trustworthy people first. If there's a free school counselor, I'd make an appointment with them instead. And never tell your family where you are. If you keep in contact with your siblings and they push for info, I'd have another university picked out with basic information that you can say enough about to have a convincing story. A university far from where you actually are. Not the a-hole. Please let your school know the situation and have them lock down your info. Also, call the police for both your town and the school to make them aware you are safe, an adult, and you are fleeing from a horrible environment. That you are concerned for your safety, possible retaliation, and being brought home and held against your will. If you do not do this, your parents will end up getting info and address from you and the police will be at your door. If you do not have your birth certificate on you, they may try physically detain you at the police station and let your parents know where you are. Once the school is made aware in both police stations, please tell your roommates that you are fleeing a horrible situation and that allowing your parents to know where you are is safety risk. It would also be helpful to call a few key relatives to let them know your side of the story and that you are safe. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my daughter after she pawned a family heirloom? I have 3 daughters, Lucy, female 21, Diane, female 17, and Rosa, female 15. Their father, my husband, unfortunately passed away in a work accident 11 years ago. We were all devastated, and it was a terrible shock. We were able to get by with my parents helping out with the kids so that I could work. We're doing much better now financially. However, I've been having a lot of problems with Lucy. Not long after she turned 18 and finished school, she's suddenly gone off the rails, is mingling with some very sketchy people, and I don't know what to do with her. She's gotten into heavy smoking cigarettes and weed, partying at every opportunity, getting drunk every day, and I suspect she's been doing hard stuffs. She started treating the house like a bread and breakfast and is very disrespectful to me and her sisters. I didn't raise her to act like this, and I'm at my wit's end. I've tried to get her into rehab and therapy, but she just refuses to go and gets very angry when I bring it up. Lucy stays with us rent-free. She works a job in retail and buys her own groceries but blows the rest of her income. The last straw for me was something that happened 3 weeks ago. Diane and Rosa have pieces of very expensive jewelry that they inherited from their dad's mother after she passed away last year. The jewelry had been in the family for generations. Whilst they were at school, their pieces of jewelry went missing from their rooms. Diane and Rosa were incredibly upset when they noticed the jewelry was missing. I asked Lucy if she knew what happened to the jewelry. Lucy lied and said she didn't know. I pressed the issue and pointed out that she went partying and spent loads of money, and Lucy eventually admitted that she stole the jewelry and pawned it. Even though it was kind of obvious that it was Lucy, I was still shocked that she would do something like that. I told Lucy that this is it, and that I'm kicking her out. I told her that she needs to be out in 3 days. I didn't think it was fair on Diane and Rosa to keep someone like Lucy around when she keeps causing chaos and destruction in our home, and I was also worried about Diane and Rosa being influenced by her. Lucy left the next day and went to go stay with my parents, who were saying I'm a horrible mother for kicking Lucy out and that I'm clearly playing favorites. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. If they are heirlooms gifted to your daughters, you need to report the jewelry as stolen. Local police get pawn sheets from local pawn stores and check them against stolen property reports. Your daughter will probably get arrested because pawn shops take the IDs of people pawning goods, but you may be able to retrieve the jewelry. I don't think Opie is an a-hole for kicking her daughter out of the house, but I do think she will be one if she doesn't try to get the jewelry back. Not the a-hole. I wholly agree with this. Do not lose those family heirlooms that belong to your other daughters because of Lucy's dishonest behavior. I think Lucy pawned the jewelry for drug money. Both are correct. I am recovering, and being an addict doesn't absolve us from our actions. What it does mean is that we were sick. People get sober and try to atone for their actions, but whether the victim accepts it is up to them. We can't change the past. We are responsible for our past. We can try our best to make amends, and the rest is out of our hands. It's complicated because it's not simple. Not the a-hole. Your daughter has some things to figure out. Maybe she will, maybe she won't, but ultimately you still have 2 other non-destructive children to prioritize and care for. She's 21, and while you'll always be her mom, she's an adult and responsible for who she wants to be, where she wants to go, and what she wants to do. Meanwhile, you have actual minors to worry about. Hopping onto this comment to point out that Opie needs to check the credit reports of the younger children and herself. You need to make sure no credit card/identity theft has taken place. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my half of the rent? I, 19 female, have been living with a close friend, 19 female, since last December. We co-signed a lease so both our names are on paper for the place we're renting out, and we pay 50-50 for the rent. The lease was up a couple of months ago, but we were still making back-to-back monthly payments due to our agreement with our landlord. Everything was going good, up until a couple months ago when my roommate started acting differently. It started off with some small things, like when she'd have a bad day at work, she would get home and basically take it out on me, which fine, I can handle minor mood swings. I thought it would just be a temporary thing anyways. However, it gradually got worse. She was constantly mad at me and would look for anything to berate for, sometimes without even giving a reason why after. Not only that, but she kept acting like the place was solely hers. She would say things to mutual friends about how it was her place, therefore she had a final say in whatever happened to it, or who was welcome and who wasn't without even consulting me. I finally had enough, so I decided that it was time for me to move out. I gave our landlord my 1-month notice to be out by the end of September and told her about it the next day. She gave the landlord her 1-month notice about 2 weeks after I told her, but by then it was already September, so she informed him she would be gone by October. Even before I gave my notice to the landlord, I've been staying with a different friend, 20 male, so I haven't been there since almost a month ago now. The other day, she messaged me saying the rent was gonna be due for October and that I had to pay my half. But I told her, I'm afraid I can't do so as I gave my notice that I'd be gone by the end of September. She ended up getting mad and saying that this was not fair and that I'm totally screwing her over. I haven't even been living there for almost a month now, so I feel I shouldn't have to pay for a place that isn't mine anymore. But I do feel kind of bad about it. So am I the a-hole for refusing to pay my half of the rent? Not the a-hole. Your written lease had expired and you were operating under a month-to-month lease. You properly informed your landlord and co-tenant that you were not going to continue the lease and paid your portion of the final month of your lease. You did literally nothing wrong, legally or morally. Not the a-hole. You gave your 1-month notice on time. It will be out in 1 month. She wanted the place to be solely hers, and that's what she got. Lol. Good luck, OP. Just from OP's other posts, the issues coincided with OP's boyfriend who was living there at a time picking up hard substances, after running from his own addict parents. OP never posted a conclusion on if they kicked him out and how that all went down. I can definitely see why the roommates might have taken a stand on who's allowed through the door after that. We both mutually agreed to kick him out, and I ran everything by her before we let him move in. In no way did I ever treat it like it wasn't both our place. I viewed us as equals, so I never did anything without consulting her first. Whereas she let her addict brother stay with us for months on end without even running it by me. Oof, yeah, I feel you were not the a-hole in regards to leaving or the lease. Just wasn't sure if the prior post had caused a change in her behavior. Completely understandable. However, I don't know what triggered a change. I wish I did, and I wish it was something we could have sorted out. But it doesn't seem that way as I've tried talking to her about it, and she said I was just lashing out and being dramatic. Am I the a-hole for telling my bio dad I don't want to meet him? I, male 20, was born to a single mom. Both my biological parents aged out in foster care and had a lot of issues growing up. My mom was 17 when she had me, and she saw this as an opportunity to get her life in order. Meanwhile, my dad left while she was still pregnant. My mom got married to my stepdad when I was 4 and he adopted me right around that time, and has been the best dad I could ever ask for. Luckily, he comes from a huge family, so along with my dad, I also got grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins and was given an awesome childhood. Growing up, my bio dad was never really mentioned. My mom never said anything about him other than he wasn't ready to be a parent, which I was okay with. 2 months ago, he contacted me through social media. He did a whole, "Hey, I'm your dad" message and asked if we could talk. At first, I didn't mind. I gave him my number and we chatted a bit. He seemed to be doing okay and was overall a pleasant person, until I mentioned my relationship with my stepdad. For some reason, he got really upset that I call him dad and are very close. He even got upset that I speak Korean. My stepdad is Korean and we lived in South Korea for 7 years. And basically called me a traitor for accepting another man as my dad. I was quite speechless and told him that since he was the one to walk out on me, he has no right to judge me or my dad, and said that if he feels this way, we should probably go back to being strangers. Again, he called me a traitor, and began sending countless of messages to my mom about how she turned me against him, which is simply not true. I ended up blocking him, and I thought I was in the right about it. But my friends keep saying that it's natural he feels threatened and jealous, and I overreacted and should give him another chance to get to know him. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It is not natural that a man who abandoned his child should be threatened that he was replaced by another man. With that line of reasoning, your bio dad is saying he would have preferred you had no father figure and had been alone. The fact that he is putting his own shame and delayed need to have a son above your needs as a child and attacking you shows that you are way better off returning to strangers. Just because you share DNA does not mean that gives him the right to treat you poorly. I'm really glad you were saying that, because to me it sounded absurd when he began calling me a traitor. It felt so unfair to hear those things at that moment, and it was almost like he was disappointed that I had a good life with a good family, instead of being more like him, I suppose. Thank you for the advice. Your friends are idiots. Can't argue with that, but I did see the point they were trying to make. It's still hard though to even imagine a future relationship with that person. Not the a-hole. He's not your dad. He's simply the person who got your mom pregnant. Genetic links don't create relationships. So glad you got such a great dad to actually raise you. But my friends keep saying that it's natural he feels threatened and jealous and I overreacted and should give him another chance to get to know him. Why is it that so many people who post on here have really lousy friends? I mean seriously, not the a-hole OP at all. He's almost 40. He's been out of your life for 20 years. He should dang well know that you had your own life. And as someone who grew up in the system, unless he spent the last 20 years in a bottle or impaled on a needle in an alley, he should know you make your own family when you can. He is probably riding high in jealousy right now. Your friends are right on that. But that's not your problem. And him taking out anything on you or your mother is an instant call to cut contact. Him striking out in jealousy and hurt shows you his character. I know that you're right. And while I don't think my friends are lousy, I'm really glad I was able to read all the advice given to me here and see everyone's perspective. The thing is, whenever I think about this man, I feel sad for him because he aged out in the system and had to deal with his fair share of bad situations. So I kind of find myself excusing his behavior, which I know is wrong. But given everything he said and has done since, I don't think I'll unblock him anytime soon. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my stepmother she's not the most important woman in my life? My dad is married to Jenny. They've been together for a little over 6 years and married for about 4 now. And dad was a widower when they met. I'm 16 female, and my siblings are 14 female and 12 male. Our mom died 8 years ago. Jenny's not adjusted well to being a step-parent. I think she thought she would be just a parent to us because our mom had died. I didn't consider that we'd still talk about and have photos of mom. And over the years, she has been to therapy and her and my dad have gone to couple sessions. In the last year, the 5 of us have gone to family therapy and she has admitted it's hard for her because she feels like she's second best or a consolation to us and that we don't really love and want her. Dad assured her that we all love her just as much as mom, that she's his number one and is vital to our family. For a while then in sessions, she and the therapist would talk about how she feels. Like she's not a true member of the family, like she's a second-class member, not someone we see as important in the structure of the family. She said she never felt love from any of us, and she feels like even extended family, which she explicitly said was my grandparents and my aunts and uncles, come before her when it comes to us kids. She said she sees it in so many things, including the way we don't regard her parents as our grandparents or her 2 sisters as our aunts. And then when I turned 16 and we did a nice dinner party, my guest list included both mom and dad's side of the family, but not her side. My sister was the first to speak during all this, and she said nothing was ever done to make her feel bad. That she just doesn't think of her as her mom or as being her parent. Once that was said, she was talking about how much that makes her feel bad, and like she's not truly accepted. The therapist asked us to consider whether we'd be willing to deepen the relationship so she felt equally as loved and important as our dad. And dad wanted us to consider ditching our typical Christmas dynamic and spend a time with her parents exclusively this year. Then 3 weeks ago, she brought up that I had made something for class that went into details on my family, and she pointed out that she and her family were not mentioned. Then she asked me why my grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins were mentioned on both sides, all with their own pages. But I couldn't make room for the most important woman in my life, her. I told her because she is not the most important woman in my life. I told her that will always be my mom, followed by both my grandmas. She asked if she was just second best then, and if she was unimportant, and I refused to answer her. Afterward, my dad and Jenny both told me that I was cruel to say she wasn't the most important woman in my life when she is there every day and has done her best. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, and I don't think this therapist is working well for anyone. Not really. She seems to be the kind who tries to get someone what they want, and not actually working and trying to help make things realistic and healthy. Because so far, all she has focused on is trying to get Jenny what she wants and nothing else. Sessions are normally all about Jenny and how she feels, and that's about it. Not the a-hole. And I think stepmom needs a different therapist because it doesn't seem like she's getting a lot out of this one. Your feelings about this is valid, and Dad is wrong for trying to force you to deepen the relationship when it sounds like stepmom is burning bridges and looking for a ready-made family of her own. I think stepmom is getting what she wants, which is emotional validation rather than what she needs, which is actual therapy to uncover the core beliefs and life experiences that have created her distorted view of things in the first place. If she and Opie's dad genuinely want things to change, it's time to find a new therapist, not the a-hole. As a therapist, I applaud your remarks. The person they are seeing now is wildly off base and not helping stepmom to gain self-awareness she needs. Not the a-hole. I think it's time to get blunt and tell the group that you think perhaps individual therapy for Jenny, so she can work on exactly why she needs you all to pledge your undying love and devotion so badly, would be a better idea than this. Because if the goal of these sessions is to get you to pretend you don't miss your mom, let alone would ever choose Jenny over having her back, that's not realistic, and you don't think it's healthy. She's had that individual therapy. She went for a while. Not long enough. And the family therapist sucks if he thinks that it's more appropriate to change all of your feelings about your late mother than to encourage this virtual stranger to accept that she chose her husband and he chose her, but the rest of you didn't choose any of this. If she would calm down and quit demanding to be the center of attention, this would go better for all of you. Not the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for hiding that I'm buying our childhood home for my brother? When my dad died, he left the house my brothers that I grew up in to the three of us and our mom. By then it had already been a rental property for 18 years, so none of our family was living in it. Over the last 5 years, my elder brother keeps complaining that he doesn't have any money. And in the last year, he has decided that he wants to be bought out of the house we jointly own. But he wanted way above market rate, about £180,000 instead of £110,000 for a share. Mom, my younger brother and I offered him the market rate price only. But he refused and secretly contacted the solicitor and set us all notice that he would be forcing the sale if we didn't give him the price he wanted. We tried to compromise, but he said that he didn't care about a property. Sentiment meant nothing to him and he just wanted the cash. In the end, the three of us bought him out for a price between his asking price and market value. He has barely spoken to the family since. My mom started worrying that when she passes, she's in her late 80s, the same issue will come up again. So, my younger brother and I suggested that we buy out her share, leaving the two of us the only owners. The sale went through, and when he came to my grandson's birthday party, my sister-in-law must have told him. He's furious and rang our mom, screaming at her and saying that he's been excluded from family decisions and we are purposefully cutting him out. He told her that he won't speak to her ever again unless me and younger brother apologize to him in person. I really don't think we did anything wrong, and if it's guilting mom, then he is the a-hole actually. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. What family decisions? It was not his house, not his money, not his decision. Not the a-hole. Nothing like money to make people become greedy. Let's call a spade here. Your elder brother isn't angry because a family decision was made without him. He's angry because he's lost an investment in the house. He expected to get a piece of the property and was likely going to do the same thing he did with his first time. If your mom's share of the house was divided 3 ways between you three, he'd get a third of her portion that he had already sold his share to back once already and was looking to do it again, and probably to sell for more than it's worth again. By cutting him off from that inheritance, he will not be getting any of it, so he is angry that he's losing it. The fact is, while it may be seen as a bit underhanded to not tell him about it, simply out of courtesy as a family member, the cold hard fact is that it doesn't involve him. Your mom is her own individual, competent to make her own decisions, just as you and your other brother are. The sale was the business of the parties involved only. Therefore, you did not need to disclose any of it to your elder brother. Furthermore, it's not like he was cut out and excluded from an inheritance. This was a sale. You purchased the property. Your mom didn't give it to you two for free. The money she gained from it is hers to do with what she wants, just like the property was hers to sell to whomever she decided to sell it to. I'm guessing your brother's afraid that she's going to spend the money from the sale, or divide that up amongst the three of you equally in her will, rather than give him what he thought should have been his portion and value of the property to him. He's not wrong to expect that to occur. If your mom ends up in a nursing home or long-term care facility, her assets will go to that first. But what is wrong is that he expects an inheritance at all. Your mom is not required to leave anything to anyone, including him. Your elder brother lashing out at your mom for selling is awful. He's demanding an apology from his brothers, so he should be taking it up directly with his brothers, not emotionally mistreating his mother with ultimatums, manipulation, and guilt. He's just out of line in every aspect of this. But look at the bright side. He knows about the sale now, so it won't be an issue when your mom does pass, and you're all dealing with grieving as well as all the stress from the rest of her final affairs. One less drama later. He really is after that bag, isn't he? First, he sells his share, and now expects that when his mom died he would get a share again, so he can pull the same stunt he did earlier. Not the a-hole. Your brother just wants to take advantage of his own family in multiple situations. Besides, what is the broke little man gonna do? Chip in for the property suddenly? Last story. Am I the a-hole for not giving any of my grandparents' inheritance to my father's wife? My father married Amy, 29 female, this past summer. I, 27 male, have no relationship with her. I do my best to avoid any family events that she is attending. My grandparents and my father never had a great relationship, and they told me that I would be receiving most of their inheritance in camp. My grandfather passed away 2 years ago from a heart attack. I graduated from college and took care of my grandmother, but she passed away in May from cancer. I kept the camp the same as they had left it, and currently have my girlfriend, 28 female, living with me. Then I used some of the inheritance money on debt and student loans. I still have some left over, and I'm thinking about taking my girlfriend on a trip to visit her family. She's from Australia and hasn't been able to see her family since she moved here. My father spent the money he received on Amy. They announced last month that Amy was pregnant and were struggling to afford stuff for the baby. My father does work and Amy does not. Then father reached out to me a few days ago regarding the money, asking if I was willing to give some money to Amy, as she needed some money to purchase baby clothes and other necessaries. I responded back to my father to let him know that the money I received was mine and had no interest in giving Amy anything. My mother is aware and fully supports my decision in not helping my father and Amy, but he hasn't spoken to me since reaching out, and Amy is spreading lies to parts of the family. Not the a-hole. Your dad's younger woman isn't entitled to squat from your inheritance. Exactly, not the a-hole. It's their baby, not yours, and they need to learn how to support that baby. Stand your ground, or they will most likely nickel and dime you till your inheritance is all gone. For real, maybe they shouldn't have had a baby that they can't afford necessities and clothes for. Baby clothes are like $10 to $20 per pack. Yes, if you were spoiled like me and bought new, this is what it costs. All bets are off if you buy designer, so don't, lol. There are many ways to get it for free too. What kind of fancy stuff are they wanting that they need an inheritance for it? When my daughter was born in 2021, I bought her one of these big packs of onesies per size, so every 3 months until she was 1. My friends are trying to offload so much baby stuff to me right now, I have to be beating off offers for free clothes. Not the a-hole, and your dad is super weird for marrying someone like the same age as you and your girlfriend. They're grown adults. They should be able to plan for a baby if they want one, and it was your grandparents' decision to give the money to you. Enjoy it. Go scuba diving in Australia, take your girlfriend to meet her family, do whatever you freaking want with it. It sounds like you've earned it. Not the a-hole. Sounds like Amy needs a job. Shh. Trophy wives can't work. I thought everyone knew that. Not the a-hole OP, spend/save your money as you want. And don't give your father a second thought. She does have a job. It apparently just doesn't pay as well as she hoped. Not the a-hole. If your grandparents wanted your father to have more money, they would have left it to him. His finances are his responsibility. You should not feel any way obligated. Am I the a-hole for sending my younger sister money against my girlfriend's wishes? Plus mini updates. My younger sister, female 25, is working towards getting her master's degree in New York. While she loves the city and school, she hates how expensive everything has become. She does work part-time, but it simply isn't enough. My parents, male 77 and female 73, have been sending her money each month, but since they recently retired, they've had to cut back. To fill the gap, my brother, male 28, and I, male 32, have begun sending some money to our sister from time to time to help with her rent. I have a well-paying job and a close relationship with my sister, so I'm happy to help where I can. However, my girlfriend, female 30, has expressed her dissatisfaction with the arrangement. We've been saving up to put a down payment on a house in the future, and my girlfriend believes that my financial contributions to my sister is hindering our progress. Yesterday, which happened to be the day I usually send my sister money, girlfriend told me that we needed to reduce expenses, and one suggestion she made was for me to no longer send money to my sister. She believes that my sister needs to learn how to manage her money better, and that my brother, male 28, should contribute more. I told her about how I feel irresponsibility towards my sister, and how my brother doesn't make as much as I do. And while she did acknowledge that, she then said I was financially naive and said she doesn't want me to be taken advantage of. I was kinda disappointed hearing this, as I made a conscientious decision to help my sister and wasn't falling for some sort of scam. The conversation ended because we both had to go to work, but she told me not to send anything until we've further discussed this. During my lunch break at work, I proceeded to send my sister some money anyway and told girlfriend about this over dinner. She told me that she was disappointed. At this point, I was getting a little annoyed and responded by saying I was not willing to compromise my current arrangement with my sister. Girlfriend got upset with this and left the table. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I make about 15.5k a month and have been putting away 4 to 6k each month towards a future house. Girlfriend makes about 7k a month, currently saves around 1k a month for the house. She said she'll contribute more once her student loans are paid off. I pay for rent and utilities, while girlfriend pays for bulk of groceries. I started sending my sister $1,500 a month since my parents retired. Sister pays $2,800 a month in rent and $350 a month in transportation. I contribute $1,500 a month. Brother pays $750 and parents pay $500. Our mother was terrified of sister living in New York City on her own and only agreed if she lived in a nicer area and had a car. For those wondering, I'm a chemical engineer and girlfriend has been paying about 2.5k a month to pay for student loans. Now for the top comments before reading the mini updates. Do you and your girlfriend share finances? If not, then you are not the a-hole. Otherwise, you are. We don't have a shared bank account. I pay rent and utilities. She pays about 80% of the groceries while I cover about 20%. Then absolutely not the a-hole. I personally would be wary about how someone wants to dictate to you like this about money, especially considering it appears you contribute substantially more shared expenses. And he's already saving 4 to 6 times as much as the girlfriend towards the house. Out of $7,000 a month, she contributes $1,000 towards the house, plus groceries, and $2,500 in student loans. What is she spending 2.5k a month on? How many clothes, etc. does she need? It's your money, and you have offered to help your sister out. I respect this decision greatly. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, but massive red flags getting thrown around your girlfriend, my man. It would be one thing if you were sending so much money that it was affecting your own financial status, or if your sister was lying or taking advantage of you and your brother, or if your girlfriend was also contributing money and no longer wanted to, or if you were sending shared money. But none of those things are an issue. And literally, your sister is just trying to exist in an expensive city, and her extremely loving and generous brothers are choosing to support her because they can and want to. That's really beautiful. You should really reconsider buying a house and continuing a relationship with someone who prioritizes her own desires so far over yours. She's seriously overstepping and disrespecting, unless she's not telling you some hidden fear or worry here that explains her bizarre self-centered stance. What she's trying to force you into is selfish and caring and just icky. 100% this. The money you're sending your sister is not hindering your monthly bills or savings. You make more than twice what your girlfriend does and are saving way more than she is. All she pays in bills is 80% of groceries, and you pay the rest plus the remainder of the bills. Your girlfriend is very greedy and manipulative. Please look at all the red flags that are being flagged around you. Not the a-hole at all. It's a lot of marinara. The way she's trash-talking his family is my biggest concern. Like she wants to isolate him from what sounds like a very supportive family. Now for the mini updates. My girlfriend and I had a long talk after work. It didn't go well. To summarize, tensions escalated during the conversation. I told her that I planned to continue helping my sister until she completes her degree, and afterward, she would either start working or move back to our parents' home until she finds a job. However, my girlfriend expressed her belief that my sister, and the whole family, is manipulating me and thinks I'm naive enough to send her money regardless of how she uses it. I started to feel increasingly annoyed and defensive by her accusations and asserted that it's my money and I have the right to spend it as I see fit. I then stupidly said that if she really wanted us to buy a house, she should save more and cut back on expenses like nice shoes, clothes, and purses. At this point, she became properly angry and declared that she couldn't stay in the same house as me and said that she would be going to her friend's house. Before leaving, she said, "Call me when you stop thinking like a freaking idiot." And before I could even think, I replied, "I won't be calling." I feel that I may have irreparably damaged our relationship. Update 2. I want to express my thanks to all of you for sharing your perspectives and insights. Your input is truly appreciated. Following the fight with my girlfriend, I reached out to my brother to confide in him about what happened. His take was pretty optimistic. However, he advised me to stand firm in my position, while also remaining open to fully hearing out my girlfriend and considering the possibility of reconciliation. He cautioned against contacting girlfriend's friend to ask about her whereabouts, as it may smell of desperation, and instead said that he would come over as he lives about an hour away, so we could spend time together over a movie and dinner. At this point, I feel drained and numb. It's been a long day, and to be honest, I just want it over. Update 3. My brother came by and brought dinner. We've been watching The Dark Knight since. Don't know why he chose that. Still haven't heard from girlfriend or her friend. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay all the rent and bills? I have been with my partner for 2 years and lived together for 1 year. We split the rent and bills 50-50, apart for 3 months last year when my girlfriend went through a bad period of depression due to her job and missed a lot of work. During this time, I had to pay 75% of everything. This was affordable but barely, and I had to cut back on a lot of things. Now, my girlfriend is complaining about her job again, saying it causing her to feel low and saying she's thinking of just leaving because she hates it there. I tried talking to her about waiting until something else comes along before leaving, since having no money will only add to her stress. She asked if I would be able to cover everything if she left, and I said I couldn't. I pointed out if I did pay for everything, that would mean that pretty much every month I'd end up dipping into my savings, and that after rent and bills and food, I'd have pretty much nothing at all left. She just said it's something I might have to do soon, and I again said I won't be. I said, as crappy as it may be, she'll either have to stay at her current job or pay her half of the rent and bills from her savings. She accused me of not being supportive and started talking about how I knew she hated it at her job and should want to help her. I said I do help her, but that is too much to ask since she knows I can't afford it, and I should not have to dip into my savings just because she quits a job. She again just accused me of being unsupportive. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay all of the rent and bills? Not the a-hole. What makes it okay for you to dip into your savings to pay bills, but not her? That's not how it works. Her savings are there for times she has no money coming in. If she leaves her job, this will be one of those times. She can pay from her savings and search for a new job before they deplete to nothing. Totally not the a-hole. I get why OP's partner feels desperate. I left a job last year that was really damaging to my mental health, and I completely understand the feeling of losing a little bit of yourself every time you have to go back to that office. It's awful, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I kept going back until I had another job in place, because I can't afford to not have an income. It's a truly terrible reality to have to live in, but it's the one we've got, and OP's partner needs to be realistic about it, and either keep the job until she gets a new one, or make sure her savings are enough to cover her expenses in the meantime. Then OP's partner should be applying for other jobs. I don't know why she, or really anyone who quits without a plan, thinks that this is a magical thing that'll just work itself out. She sounds like a freeloader. Not the a-hole. Unfortunately, she is an adult that had to be responsible for herself, whether or not she's feeling depressed. You can be supportive without literally bleeding yourself dry. If she expects this of you, that sounds like a huge character flaw. Girlfriend isn't looking for a supportive partner, just someone to financially support her. On the money. She doesn't want to work. She wants to be a stay-at-home do-nothing. The fact that she isn't even willing to cover her own expenses from her savings means she's just gonna mooch for the rest of her days if she can. Even without kids in the equation, I can see Opie making a habit of this to the point he feels trapped. You can be not the a-hole and still make the wrong choice here if you stay in this situation. You need to end this because she isn't in the right headspace to be a good partner to anyone, and she needs to fix that. Even if you don't count the fact you're basically paying for everything, you could probably save enough money to keep afloat not paying her expenses. If she isn't taking antidepressants or whatever her psychiatrist gives her, then she needs to go see one and get a prescription, because you can't choose being basically non-functioning for half the months in a year. If you care for her well-being, sending her back to her parents with the suggestion she gets a psychiatrist before you consider revisiting your relationship will probably be the best thing that happens to her. She will either see how bad she lets things get, or she will choose to be exactly who she is, but as someone else's problem instead of yours. Last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my son, his girlfriend, and my grandson out of my house? I, 63 female, and my husband, 67 male, ran into an issue with my son last year. During the pandemic, his girlfriend got pregnant. He moved her in with his roommates who were not happy. The roommates left, and they resigned with the landlord just themselves. But his girlfriend couldn't/wouldn't find a job, and lost his job a few months later and couldn't pay rent. They stayed for 7 months and they got evicted. Now they have an eviction on their record, and terrible credit because they lived off of credit card. So they have thousands in credit card debt. I didn't want them moving in. My son, 38 male, lived at home until he was 31, so we had a lot of trouble getting him to move out. But his girlfriend was giving birth soon, so we took them in. They stayed for almost a year, and the deal was, they both get jobs, they help pay utilities and pay off their credit cards and find a place to live. They were only supposed to stay for 6 months, but they wouldn't move out when we asked at the end of 6 months. They said because of the eviction on the record, no one would rent to them. They also didn't make enough to pay utilities, so my husband and I paid more in utilities. And they ate for free as well, since they would take from the fridge and wouldn't buy any groceries themselves. We offered to help them with baby expenses like diapers, car seats, etc. at first, but it's been almost a year and we're still paying for it. They were doing DoorDash but not working more than 3 to 4 hours a day. I kept trying to get my son to get a full-time job, but he just got angry and accused me of nagging him. His girlfriend is also very messy and doesn't clean up after herself. I've changed more diapers and fed her son more than she has, and it's infuriating because they chose to have a child but won't take responsibility. My husband and I have been retired for 2 years now, and we had planned to move to Chile where I am from. We were supposed to sell the house last year and didn't, just to let them stay, but it's now been over a year and we were sick of it. We kept telling them they had to move out, and they just ignored us, so we put our house up for sale. We had wanted to renovate it first, but they wouldn't let us into their bathroom and room, so we decided just to sell it as is. We got a fair offer and closed by the weekend, and told them they had 2 months to move. My son yelled at us for kicking them out and not caring about him, and shattered the decorative vase we had. They finally moved out, and we are in between places and will be going to Chile next month. But my son and his girlfriend currently have nowhere to live. They are staying with a friend now, but they are only letting them stay until the end of the month and then they will have to figure it out. My son yells at me over the phone and tells me I'm never allowed to see my grandson again for kicking them out. I don't know where I went wrong, that he couldn't be an adult and get a job and move out without being forced. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. He's 38. You were way more patient than you should have been. Not the a-hole. I have a 37-year-old sister who has 2 teenagers, and my mom and I just had a big blow up at each other. Because my sister got offended, I offered her some occupational assistance. That being said, you two also are the main cause of this whole thing. Did you enable him until he was 31 living with you? Did he help with bills then? When people have children while being financially insecure by choice, a lot of the reason is that their parents let them skate by. This is the tough love you should have done ages ago. It's crazy to me that between two people they couldn't even split utilities. They wouldn't let her in the bathroom. Either it was disgusting AF, or they're using and it's disgusting AF. As I told my mom about my 35-year-old brother, sometimes you just have to love people from over there, at a safe distance. I have a hallmark relationship with one of my adult sons. I say nice things like a greeting card, and stay far away. I mean, I didn't move out of the parents until I was 31, but I was paying a rent they were happy with, worked full-time, and was clearly saving for a home. I don't think 30 plus is a reasonable age to move out, provided you had a reason for staying, not just to mooch off your parents. I think the situation was the unreasonable part. Not working full-time is the big red flag. Not the whole, but perhaps set up a trust for that kid for when he comes of age, because it sounds like he may need it. Sounds like a good idea if you plan on leaving an inheritance, something completely untouchable until kid is 18 or 21, and then can only be used on higher education or down payment on a home. And only set it up so that his entitled parents can't touch a red cent of it under any circumstances. You may have gone wrong nowhere at all. Some amazing kids came from awful parents, and sometimes rarer. Amazing parents end up raising poop birds. I do worry for the kid, and I think you should call CPS. This baby is a baby, and there is a decent chance of adoption since the two of them can't get it together. If I were you, I'd try to come to peace with never seeing your grandchild, because even if they keep the kid, they will always use that child as a pawn to get money and housing. And anytime you say no, they threaten and remove the child. Your son is nearly 40. I'm so sorry because I know you're embarrassed, but whether you did a good job or a bad job, your job here is done.